No this is Governor of Naira State, Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please let's welcome the chief host of today's event, the immediate past Governor of Rivers State, His Excellency Chief Barrister Nnamdikanu, DSSRS CON, Honorable Minister, Federal Capital Territory. Please a warm round of applause for him.
Media, shall we?
Let's go.
Mine, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this auspicious occasion of the first Abuja Business and Investment Summit with the theme, Optimizing Investments Through Partnership. I would like to express my profound gratitude to my boss, His Excellency Pro-Wike, CON, the Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, for the support he's given to me and the push to make this possible. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Permit me also, thank you. Permit me also to thank our keynote speaker, His Excellency Charles Soludo, CFR, Governor of Anambra State, for accepting our invitation despite your very busy schedule. We're very grateful, sir. I'd also like to thank members of the National Assembly and, like I said, my colleagues, former colleagues, the ambassadors, and members of the diplomatic corps for gracing this occasion. Well, this summit is aimed at promoting investment opportunities in FCT, as well as creating a platform for networking among investors from within Nigeria and beyond. I am confident that our crop of carefully selected and notable panelists would provide insightful and thought-provoking ideas that will break new grounds for economic prosperity for our esteemed company and participating investors. In addition, I believe the discussions at this event would inspire us to think bigger, to push the boundaries of what's possible in business and investment. As we engage in this discussion over the coming days, I would like to remind participants about the power of building strong partnerships for the achievement of a win-win situation in our business endeavors. Together, we can optimize our investments and drive the impactful change that our organization and country needs for economic prosperity. Let me conclude by recognizing all our sponsors and partners for their invaluable contributions towards making this summit a reality. Your trust and support for the realization of this event is a testament to your commitment to innovative ideas geared towards stimulating collaboration and growth in our ever-evolving business landscape. I would like to assure you of AICL's commitment to build on this momentum for a prosperous and innovative future. Thank you very much.
Warm citizens, welcome to the Honorable Minister of the FCT, Nnamdikanu, for his special remarks.
Your Excellency, the former governor of Central Bank, Governor, talked about how we should upgrade the informal sector. I wish that I would be directly participating in the discourse. I would have said, in upgrading the informal sector too, no city can grow without planning. The mere fact that you migrate from the rural area down to the city or where you want to have something to do does not mean that we jettison the rules and regulations. And so when you see bulldozers coming, is to comply with the rules and regulations. Some of these cities you are talking about shanties. You can't build houses without development plan. Nobody does that. Sometimes criminals will take advantage and take over this, and then what you hear for a survivor, nobody can survive without obeying the law. Anyway, that's the matter of different things. So, but just to say, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you. First of all, let me start by thanking the Group Managing Director of Abuja Investment Company. Just like my sister said, it's one thing to appoint you into a position. It's another thing to make use of that to showcase the potentials in you. Office does not make anybody. It's you that make what your office will be. I'm sure she's not the first Group Managing Director of Abuja Investment Company, but she has taught it well that, look, we can continue to just not sell Abuja. Let people know the potentials in Abuja. Come, Abuja is a safe place. Come, there are a lot of things you can do with Abuja, in Abuja, collaborating with Abuja Investment Company. With the video she showed us, everybody will be happy to come and invest. And I think that this is the sole aim of why we are here. I will sincerely thank the development partners, even though I still have some problems with them. In fact, when I went to the Kubo International Market, of course, you wouldn't like it, but again, sometimes these partners are just a way to have advantage over the people. I saw the memo that she brought to me about acquisition of more land, and I said to her, the one they have acquired, where is our position? The partner takes 80% or 90%, and you want government to take 10%, while I will provide the infrastructure. I said that kind of arrangement is one-sided. So these are things I said, stop, don't acquire. Let's talk on this one that we have already agreed. Let's see how that, investors will always tell you they are putting in money, but they forget the fact that too, government is putting in the infrastructure. Somebody wants to develop in Wasa. Government awarded a contract about 98 billion of roads. And during the agreement they reached with the FCT or the FCD, what the person will be doing to build and sell, what is the share for the government after putting 98 billion to provide for them, and then bringing out the land? The investor is to build and sell, according to them, to the poor people. Who is the poor people person? Who defines it? So these are the kind of things too that government will look at and say, look, how can I put in this kind of money and bring in the land? At the end of the day, government will not make a dime. I said, cancel. This is fraud. As a council, this is a fraud. This is not the kind of investment or partnership we are looking. It's not. It's not the kind of partnership we are looking. When people say government is not to make money, who told you that? If government is not to make money, how do we have money to provide services? Government needs money. That's why government says pay your tax. It's very, very important. And so, while we provide an enabling environment, we also believe that we have to encourage you to make sure that you get what you're supposed to get and the government get what they're supposed to get. In that way, everybody will go home smiling. Well, it is an honor and privilege to be here today for the maiden edition of the Abuja Business and Investment Summit, organized by the Abuja Investment Company Limited. Permit me to begin by welcoming all of you to Abuja who have traveled across our beautiful country and beyond to attend this auspicious event. I'm aware that Abuja Business and Investment Summit is designed to showcase to our stakeholders and potential investors in Nigeria and worldwide the investment opportunities that are bound in the FCT. It's equally a platform to initiate collaborations to enhance economic growth, cultural exchange, and sustainable development. I therefore wish to commend the Group Managing Director of Abuja Investment Company Limited and her dedicated team for the initiative in organizing this summit, which exemplifies the administration's commitment to fostering an investment-friendly environment in the nation's capital. The theme, optimizing investments through partnership, resonates deeply with our vision for the Federal Capital Territory as a thriving hub for business and innovation. As we navigate the complexities of today's economic landscape, it is essential to recognize that the power of collaboration can significantly enhance our investment strategies. By forging strong partnerships, we not only pool resources, but also leverage diverse expertise and insights that drive innovation and efficiency. As we gather in this vibrant city, let us acknowledge the immense potential within the FCT. Abuja is not just the political capital of Nigeria, it's a place of opportunities waiting to be harnessed. Our unique position, strategic location, and growing population create a fertile ground for investment across various sectors, including real estate, technology, agriculture, healthcare, tourism, construction, mining, and renewable energy. The FCT administration has undertaken significant measures to create an enabling environment for local and foreign investors. We recognize that infrastructure is the backbone of any successful investment. That's why we have prioritized the development of roads, transportation networks, and utilities to ensure seamless connectivity within the territory. From bustling urban areas to our beautiful rural communities, we are committed to improving infrastructure to enhance accessibility and attract investments. In fact, we'll flag off the construction of 9 major projects next week, which will undoubtedly enhance investment opportunities across the territory. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are keenly aware that security is paramount in attracting investors. The safety of our investment is our top priority. We have made considerable strides in enhancing security measures across the FCT, collaborating with law enforcement agencies to ensure a secure environment for businesses to flourish. We believe a safe and secure environment is fundamental for successful investment, and we will continue reinforcing our efforts in this area. I want to emphasize that the FCT is open for business. We have streamlined our processes to make it easier for investors to set up and operate. The Abuja Investment Company Limited and the Abuja Enterprise Agency have facilitated partnerships and supported investors, ensuring you receive the necessary guidance at every step of your investment journey. Besides infrastructure security, we also focus on fostering innovation and entrepreneurship. We have launched several initiatives to empower small and medium-sized enterprises, which are the backbone of our economy. By providing access to funding, training, and resources, We aim to cultivate a robust ecosystem that encourages innovation and drives economic growth. I invite you to explore the myriad investment opportunities in the FCT. Whether you are interested in real estate development, technology incubation, or agribusiness, there's a place for you in Abuja. As I wait the outcome of this summit, please let us work together to create value, generate jobs, and drive economic growth in the FCT, in line with Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed hope agenda. Thank you for your valued attention, and may God bless you. Thank you, and God bless you.
With that standing ovation for the #1 citizen of our
summit. It's a very novel one. And I must commend both the minister, the investment company limited, for this particular unique initiative. As has been said, this is the first time it's happening. Quite auspicious. In Abuja, that is known as home to politicians, it's a capital, it's a political city as it were. All of a sudden, you are now trying for it to transit into a business and investment summit. Congratulations. Congratulations. It says quite a whole lot about the pathway to the future for Nigeria. I walked around, I came in 6 minutes to 10, and I took pains to walk around the kiosks outside, where you have various demonstration centers, businesses, advertising, and so on. It begins to send a message that this isn't going to be just another talk show. I am hopeful that this will be, a summit where deals will be closed. And thanks for the that presentation. That was quite no, please, don't distract them by putting that, because we are not shooting it. It just shows that, I was going to make the point that you've done investment summits happen everywhere. People are getting tired, quite frankly. And I must say that as a person, even when I was chief economic advisor to the president, 2003, I used to tell him I'm not a fan of investment promotion activities. Go to London, go to here, call investors, and you finish spending humongous amounts of money. That if we did the calculations of the return in terms of how many investments actually came in, little or nothing. Because the investors are not just interested in what you say, they are interested more in what you do. They are more interested in what you do. The ease of doing business. Sometimes the investors have more information about the place than even what you are providing them. And they often think about what we say to them at the fancy places in London and so on as nothing but propaganda. But here, I want to believe, and from what I have seen so far, that the Abuja Investment Summit will be pioneering a new approach to it, where you bring in the investors and the businesses, and these things that you showed us here on the screen, that we will be having the maybe the pre-feasibility studies on some of them on display, so that actual investors will interrogate them and then be able to say, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in that, and so on. And perhaps the next year's own, to which I'm inviting myself to come and sit at the back here. Would like to say that the goodwill messages will be delivered not by politicians, but by actual investors who have closed deal this year. That will be the way to demonstrate that this year's own has produced any result. I've been asked to speak on subject which you call fostering economic prosperity at the subnational level through investments. Subnational level. Well, the 36 states of Nigeria are as different as they are similar. Nigeria is made up of, Nigerian economy is 36 states plus FCT, isn't it? So, if you're talking about what happens at the subnationals, you're talking about what happens in Nigeria. And here we are in Abuja. We must be focusing on Nigeria. So what I will be focusing on is to give, just randomly speak about a few points on this investment process, where we are and what we should be doing, where the world is going, and how we leverage and key into those, or how we even do things differently here. And so I slightly modified the title to say Nigeria, securing the future through sustainable investments. And I will highlight quite a few nuggets of the difference. Sustainable investments that we must have to mainstream in this country if we are going to claim the 21st century. To put a context to this conversation, and I'm sure I see many panels of discussions, we need to have a sense of the meta-level architecture. Where is the world and where is Nigeria? Because you don't invest in a vacuum. Investments don't happen in a vacuum. They happen within a context. And what are the mega trends in the world today and Nigeria that will drive investment decisions and direction of investments? For example, in terms of mega trends, global mega trends, we know several of them. The demographic shifts and urbanization going on globally. The shifts such as aging populations, particularly in Europe and North America. And this also offers some opportunity, because as I will talk about much later, the aging Europe and North America offers Africa, and particularly Nigeria, the largest of them all, with the most youthful population, if we can get our acts together to be able to supply them with the labor force and population of the future. Yeah, seeing some of my European friends there, but they are closing the borders, but we are coming, so on and so forth. Urbanization is also a global phenomenon. So over the next 30 years, there will be significant changes going on in the world in terms of demographics, where the population will be, the shifts. Asia is becoming the home to the world in terms of shifting demographics, where the people are, and increasingly also going to be the center of the world in terms of economy, so to speak. The digital transformation is ongoing. We all know all of this. The environmental concerns, climate change, and low carbon economy, driving sustainability and impact, and also driving investment strategies globally. The trade dynamics and regulatory changes are also shifting. The nature of the global markets, dynamics also evolving. The demographic shift, I've mentioned about how it is going to be influencing healthcare investments, seniors living facilities, and urban infrastructure development. And no, I don't want you to be shooting this. Can you stop? So we don't, I want you to listen to what I'm saying rather than there. Investing in technological related areas, artificial intelligence, automation, renewable energy, and digital infrastructure will be driving investment towards sustainable green initiatives, impacting flows into renewable energy, clean technology, and eco-friendly practices. Will be influencing investment flows by affecting trade relationships. That's the geopolitical development, the climate change, and so on. The whole point, dear friends, is that there are dynamics globally that are affecting and will continue to affect in years to come how global investment flows will go. We know stuff about the FX in terms of the fund flow, how the interest rate, foreign exchange, and inflation rates are among the factors also driving even portfolio flows and long-term capital across the world and into Nigeria. Coincidentally, we had a table here, showing the charts as to where Nigeria is relative to the rest of the world in terms of inflation and interest rate regimes, so to speak. Many places you have real returns to capital, okay? But we still have negative returns right here. It's affecting the flow of funds to our economy, so to speak, where the rest of the world is, because when you are asking FDI, foreigners, to come and invest, you've got also to understand the dynamics of what drives this. We're asking people to come and invest in this, the skyscrapers they have to go and borrow the money. And the money they have to borrow will be at some cost. If somebody is going to borrow at 30%, what is that investment that is going to invest? And what will be the rate of return? So before you're asking somebody, you have also yourself done the math yourself. If you were in the person's position, would you do so? These are, what I call the context of realism. The flows of foreign direct investments across the world, mostly towards Asia, and Africa received, for example, barely 3-4% of it last year. And Nigeria, in terms of the flows of both portfolio and foreign direct investment, Nigeria is grossly punching below its weight. Whether relative to our population or relative to the size of our economy in Africa and globally, we are punching way, way below our weight. And we need to understand what is going on, so to speak. They show lower investment in infrastructure and digital economy, but strong growth in manufacturing and critical minerals across the world, and so on. Now we provide, the dynamics and so on as to where these things are going. I just wanted to give this context, and I go to what I consider to be the main key points I want to leave you with. Nigeria has continued to struggle to attract foreign direct investment. Like I said, we are punching way below our weight, as it were. But that is the point I want you to note. Globally, dear friends, we are moving the world. There is a shifting global economic power. Economic power is shifting from the G7 to the new E7, the emerging market economies. Economic power is shifting. I remember in the early 91, 92, I was at the Brookings Institution and working on the global model that's used by the IMF to do their forecasting multi-mod. I transcribed it to work on PCs. And the only 7 economies that their national economies happen to be in that global model, the others were put in the rest of Asia, rest of this put together. The only 7 economies there were the G7, the US, Japan, Germany, UK, France, Canada, Italy, in that order. Then they were the 7 largest industrial economies in the world. Today, the economic power is shifting very rapidly. Now you have E7, the emerging market economies 7, China, India, Indonesia, Brazil, Mexico, Turkey, South Korea. Depending on which order you might think of with the last 2. In terms of the order, economic power is shifting and is creating tensions around the world. In fact, about 2017 or thereabout, Goldman Sachs also had some predictions about how the economies will shape up by 2050. I think several things have changed in between then. That even some people project that the top 5 economies by 2050 will be number 1, China, number 2, US, number 3, India, Indonesia, Germany. You can look out various projections as to where the economic power will, how the world will shape by then. these things, as we watch the trends and how the shifting economic power, Nigeria must also understand where things are going to opportunistically position itself, to know who these are strategic partners will have to become of the future, both in terms of investment flows, capital flows, and strategic bilateral and other arrangements. I think the old man in one village in Anambra was asked about the way things were going, the way he could describe what was going on around him was, he said, my children, things have, he said, instead of saying change, he says chunge, that everything has changed. So the world is changing in a very dramatic way, creating quite a lot of tensions, and you'll see how different countries are responding to this, including the big US. When you hear the MAGA movement, America, make America great again. Again. Now, there is some tension. We're going to curtail China. Why are you stopping them? I thought we said it's a world of competition. And they are out-competing everybody and taking over everything. But we now deliberately want to slow them. So there is quite some shifting with all the tensions in the world. And I am coming to that in a second, and how Nigeria must also see the threats that are emerging globally and also opportunistically position ourselves to take care. In Nigeria, there are some mega trends as well, which are both threats and opportunity. Our population growth, as we talked about, projected to be over 400 million by 2050. This is a very largely youthful population. In fact, it's projected by the turn of this century, Nigeria will be the third largest country in the world by population, after India #1, China #2, Nigeria #3. All these people will need housing, they will need sewage, they will need food, they will need to be moved around, and so on. And that's why the Honorable Minister, the transformation of Abuja in the area, especially in this area of infrastructure, is key. Without it, it's like American Express. You don't leave home without it. Because people must be able to move from one place to the other. So, it's our own mega trend. Massive interregional migration, urbanization. Several few places are getting more number. There is a surge to Abuja. There's a surge to Lagos. There's a surge to my state as well. We have massive, influx of people. For every 10 criminals we catch, more than 8, 9 of them are not from Anambra. There is a surge as well. And you have several other such. There is challenges of criminality as a new economy. Kidnapping and banditry. They're no longer seen as criminal, and we better recognize what is going on. It's evolving to become the new economy. Somebody says it's even better than oil in terms of return on investment to that. I don't know which oil company that you grab somebody and in a few days you get the amount of money that people are getting. It's turning out to become a huge industry. How we'll deal with that, I think, is a subject for another day. There's huge infrastructure deficit and dearth of skilled labor force for the 21st century. I've seen many estimates. Nigeria will need $3 trillion of investment in infrastructure over the next 30 years, and all those, of course, it all depends on the efficiency of that investment, but it's just good for us to think about some number. There's the challenge of structural change, what we might call the hysteresis of the past. We're still struggling, managing the exit, for example, from costly and destructive subsidies of the past. This is part of the trends that we must have to grapple with. Managing our way to exit from this is, I think bold steps have begun, but we must model it through to a sustainable end. GDP, I've had mentions here with the largest economy. Yes, by population now. In terms of GDP, if you put it in dollar terms, maybe we have slipped from being the largest now in Africa. But it all depends on the exchange rate. In terms of, because the exchange rate depreciation, that's what I call the GDP compression in dollar terms, to now almost 300 billion compared to over 500 some years ago. But this is because of the exchange rate variation. If tomorrow exchange rate appreciates 50%, boom, your GDP in dollar terms will also can also be heading towards $1 trillion. So it's variations in exchange rate. The environment and climate change, desertification, deforestation, flooding, and erosion that are upon us. These are some of the mega trends that we'll have to grapple with, which also affect investment in Nigeria. If you live in my state, and 8 local governments in 2022 were completely flooded. You'll see 2-story building, and you will only be seeing the roof on top of the, the water, so to speak, destroying hundreds of billions of Naira worth of assets and goods and even lives. You can't be going through this every 2 years, and you hope to. So you invest 2 years later, they're all wiped off. You invest again. These are things that are affecting that. Macro imbalances and volatility. We have low savings and investment nexus. Here, having is a capital scarce country, unfortunately also experiencing bits of capital flight. So it's a double whammy that we are having. Poverty and inequality escalating. These people, it's a big topic in itself, the poverty and the inequality, and the link, the nexus to criminality, and how we break the vicious circle. Increasing diversification of the economy. The economic structure is increasingly being diversified. Oil doesn't have the same dominance as it had in terms of output, but now has dominance in terms of forex. Continues that, and lowering contribution to government revenue. But in terms of forex, foreign exchange earnings is still, and trade is still very dominant. There is increasing technological penetration, and of course the new economic vectors, tech, ICT, the fashion, music. I've heard about our Nollywood teams. They're quite growing. But let's get down to programming this investment thing and the decisions, especially at the public sector level and the private sector level. I'm glad when the Honorable Minister made some remarks, his initial remarks. It came down to a point I will come down to in a second. Because first, which investments, where and by who? Of course, by sector, we know transportation infrastructure, very critical. Power, as electricity, especially renewable energy, areas of investment. ICT and technology, water, housing, manufacturing, finance and insurance. They all rank very high, as the case may be. FCT here, the issue of housing estates is a big industry. And then, but I can say you are going into ICT, technology village, and so on. Very, very important. But very issues of manufacturing also very, very key. We want to think that if you consider the nature of agglomeration that is going on in the country, the patterns of movement and where the populations are concentrating, you will see that there is a high stuff to Lagos. I think second should be Abuja. Then you begin to have other places. I've talked about Anambra, Rivers, Kano, and several other places. As a country, we must have some very strategic interventions in job creating opportunities in these centers. They require more than normal investments in order to de-risk investments in these particular locations. And I will say a word or two about that again. I've talked about the size of investments that will come depending on how we de-risk the investment and the efficiency of investments that we'll need. Who are we targeting? Who are you targeting in this investment summit to invest in Abuja? I will say I'm battling with where do I put the emphasis between the domestic investors versus the foreign investors. But I would dare to say that foreign investors will not come rushing if the domestic investors are scared to go in. Foreign investment follows a lead by the domestic investors. Everywhere. It is they follow the lead. They will get information from the local. They won't just fly in from somewhere and then with a briefcase. No, they will need locals to tell them where the dead bodies are buried, as it were. But all of them are threatened by the same stuff, which is the macroeconomic environment and that they need to deal with, and the regulatory framework. Now, if we have to accelerate investment, there are two key drivers. So far, and thankfully, the macroeconomic framework is gradually falling into place. I think the central bank, in terms of stemming, we've now moved from massive currency substitution. That was a few months ago, what we call currency substitution, where most Nigerians, even civil servants, they get their Naira, they want to go and buy dollars, a way to hedge, to preserve value. And so people lost confidence, bit of confidence in the local currency, and that was driving rapid depreciation of the Naira. Now that has stemmed to a significant. I've been watching the NAFEX and NAFEM rates as they go, moderating, stabilizing to some extent. So currency volatility and substitution and volatility of FX is abating significantly. Inflation rate seems to be moderating as well. Hopefully, both forex and price level will stabilize, and the interest rate and monetary policy will loosen, so that interest rate can then, when it loosens, makes it better and cheaper. So all this investment thing we're talking about, somebody can go and borrow at a rate that you can finance and have real return on investment. Now, the lower interest rate will also show up the domestic investment and even foreign investment. In the short to medium term, dear friends, oil and gas will remain, in the short to medium term, that oil and gas sector will remain the game changer for Nigeria. It's still going to be very, very critical. And we're hopeful that with the digital regulation going on there, that it will attract some investment in the downstream. But very importantly, the upstream would need to unlock the opportunities inherent there. If Nigeria produces 3 million barrels tomorrow and sells, that's forex. It helps to stabilize your foreign exchange rates, even probably appreciating to some level. It provides the revenue for the kind of investment in infrastructure and the other things that will require. That's what will unlock a whole lot of opportunities. So in the short to medium term, before the investors and everybody comes, the public capital must significantly lead the way, and oil and gas will help to unlock that opportunity in terms of the macro environment. Multilateral and bilateral finance and development finance with long-term concessionary finance will bridge a lot of gap in the interim, while the others are hedging about the macroeconomic volatility. Addressing security and ease of doing business. The Honorable Minister spoke about the security thing. And then we fast track the reforms that the federal government has embarked upon with regards to our tax regime, the national tax regime, synchronizing that. But let me make a point that I want to leave you with, building on part of what the Honorable Minister had mentioned. Dear friends, there's what we call the new mercantilism and pseudo-nationalism. It's both a threat and that's an opportunity. Today's world, many countries, new nationalism is back. Economic nationalism is back. New mercantilism is back. People are trying to say America first. And I want to say that we must, first point I make here, is that we must intentionally, the whole agenda of also Nigeria first philosophy, as a philosophy, is something that we must mainstream. This will require us to intentionally nurture national champions for sustainability. If you see the companies that have pulled out of Nigeria, how many of them happen to be national companies? None. With a foreign company, they have itchy feet. The day you jump to the next one, and so on. They're very opportunistic, extremely opportunistic, so to speak. There's no emotion to it, you know. So for long-term sustainability, we must intentionally nurture the domestic capital and build them. It's a very big topic. For latecomer industrializers, governments must help to de-risk certain strategic investments for the private sector. So, for example, the illustration of the estates where government goes in to build infrastructure to attract investment. You are de-risking that particular investment by that particular investment in infrastructure. You are lowering the risk that a potential investor will have to bear. But then you need now to have thorough kind of engagement in terms of structuring that partnership in a win-win situation. So we must nurture our national champions. Through aggressive backward integration schemes, from importation to industrialization. That's a scheme we are pushing up in Anambra, to turn some of our importers to now come with their partners, domesticate those and start producing them here at home, with the goal in the long term for them to start exporting those things that they used to import. It requires hand in glove between the state, the government, and the private sector. We must deliberately promote the African capital and trade. Nationals have a higher risk appetite to invest in Nigeria. Nationals have higher risk. I am sitting as the governor of Central Bank. I saw quite a bit, and I can, in my memo, I think I have one full chapter on a whole lot of this. And part of the motivation why I set out to establish the Africa Finance Corporation. Because I knew we could be preaching about foreign investment to come and finance African investment in infrastructure. From now till thy kingdom come, it won't come. And it never did, until we set up the Africa Finance Corporation. We mobilized $1 billion plus to set it up today. There are probably close to 15 billion invested all around Africa, largely on big ticket infrastructure going on around Africa. It couldn't, go and plead with the World Bank to even develop regional framework for funding intra-African infrastructure development. They don't have such a framework. And still they don't. So you can wait till thy kingdom come. We must build the African capital as a frontier capital that will lead even the other foreigners to come in. Today, the AFC can now catalyze other capital to come hand in hand with them, but they lead the way. We must have these focused industrial parks and so on. In Anambra, we're developing what we call the Anambra Mixed Industrial City. As a focused area, I understand that that's part of what you are also developing here in Abuja, in terms of focused locations, as the case may be. But But let me say this, dear friends, still within this concept of economic and, nurturing national champions and getting them to invest. I want to share a simple point with you, that the biggest way to promote massive investments in all sectors in Nigeria is to buy, eat, drive, drink, made in Nigeria. Yes, I drove to this conference with my innocent vehicle, made in Anambra State. See, I'm wearing Akwete, made by women of Akwete in Abia. And my shoe, probably there. If you come, I'll show you around Obunike and all of that. And you see, I'm wearing my own nationalism on my head. That's a green eagle. Out there. I am Nigerian, and God didn't make a mistake to make me Nigerian. If he wanted me to be any other, he would have created me to come from there. And since he made me Nigerian, there must be a reason. The reason is that we must make it work here. Everybody else fights for their own country. Everybody else wants to, because no matter how you think about globalization and all of that, populations are still confined within the nation states, and the governments must provide jobs for those people. And so you see where the tension comes in terms of the competitive thing. I remember, and we must mainstream African Continental Free Trade Agreement and keeping an eye on the global merger. But talking about this ethnicity of capital, I remember, I just tell you one story that happened when I was governor. And after we had implemented the consolidation of the banks, and several of our banks now started emerging as regional and even global champions. You go to Heathrow and you see some of them advertising on the place, and all of a sudden, those rickety banks now are taking over the rest of Africa. I remember someday, Barclays Bank, their, I think, Middle East and Africa team came to see me. Before then, it was difficult to have investments into our banking system. Some of them had to be doing global roadshows to attract investment. The moment you begin to do something domestically, which is a message I want to leave with you, these guys, no matter the amount of preaching you do, you won't get the investors to come. When you lead the way, they will come to pursue you, to come to make the investment. When we had the consolidation and these banks, grew up with some stature, now foreign banks were now coming to acquire them. I remember Barclays coming, and they wanted to invest, according to them, £500 million. They wanted to acquire the bank, and they wanted them to expand and so on. And I received the delegation. And my response was, fine, thank you very much, you're welcome. But I will prefer you, in fact, file your application, go and wait at the Hilton. I will bring you your banking license to Hilton, but not in the, to take this our own. I will bring it in the name of Barclays. Come and operate as Barclays. My goal is to empower these our own banks to become the future Barclays of Africa. That was my message to them. Because come to think about it, some of you know the banks that are foreign here. You have Citibank, you have this, you have that have been in Nigeria for decades. Take Citibank, for example. How many branches does it have in the country? Is it in your village? No, it won't come to your village because of its risk appetite. The ones owned by Nigeria, the Access, the Zenith, the UBA, the this and that, they will be everywhere. Their risk appetite is more. They can finance your projects here and there. The foreign banks will be there to deal with the multinationals who are of their nationalities and so on and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the way the world works. And Well, they didn't come back again. Now, when I went to Washington for a spring meeting, fall meeting of the bank and the IMF, the Assistant Secretary of Treasury in charge of African affairs of the US, scheduled to have a meeting with me. And that was to discuss this particular issue. Oh, the WTO rules, you are putting a barrier to them taking over this or buying what they want. WTO allows this and so on. Just both of us, one-on-one. And I said, fantastic, I understand the WTO rules. But let me ask you, assuming China today decides to buy up JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citibank, and Wells Fargo. Okay? They have the money. I know the amount of foreign reserves, and they say, our goal now is to buy these 4 banks. What will be your reaction? He said, it depends on the percentage, the share that they want to take. I said, why does it depend? Isn't it free market? Let them China take over these 4 American banks. Market forces. Because your financial system is part of your national security. Your financial system is part of your national security. So I want to say to you that not all investment is good. But I want to take you here. And I'm coming back to the point made by the Honorable Minister. Not all investment is good. And so, we must put on our cap, your nationalistic, to vet every investment proposal to make sure that it is a win-win situation. Because most of the investors that come and we skim all of this, but unfortunately, MD and Honorable Minister, this is what you are going to find. In my own state, what you've just done to review, I have reviewed a whole lot. People will show up and come with we have got so number of billions. We are going to develop estates. You go and give them, how much do you want? I want 100, 200 hectares of land. For my state that hasn't got any land stuff. I mean, we have the second, on paper, we have the second smallest land mass after Lagos. But because about 30-35% of our land is encumbered by erosion, we are the erosion capital of Africa. Now, it's encumbered by gully erosion. So we have evidence because Lagos is expanding, it's reclaiming the ocean. Now, and you go there and you go and take 100 hectares. Once they take it, you fence it round, put a gate, and you wait for the governor to leave. Isn't it? I think the minister is, that's exactly the deal. He said, oh, we are going to do this, we are going to do that. I've got my partners from the other, we are coming to give him 100, they are land speculators. They are land speculators. They just grab, in Anambra, you go and grab 200 hectares of land and so on. My dear, it's better than oil. It's better than oil block. So somebody comes to Abuja. So when he was speaking, I was just smiling. I said, this thing's is the same everywhere. But who is the person who negotiated those kind of arrangements? Because we have no consequence in this country. We have no consequence. How would you have that kind of arrangement? And you give it. And now I have a different structure. If you come, you need this, okay. I can give you an irrevocable member. They invested the oil money to finance free and qualitative education. I am a beneficiary of that. And people of my generation, you had your primary schools, secondary schools, free. Isn't that? And the children of the poor and the rich were taught by the same teachers. And if the children of the poor were brilliant, they had a chance to break the ladder. Education was a ladder of opportunity. Today, education poverty has become a dynasty. The children of the poor end up in poor public schools with no teachers or lower teachers or no infrastructure and so on. The children of the middle class and the elite attend elite private schools where they have anything. We are creating two sets of citizens. Those who don't have, condemned there. So the children of the poor go to poor schools with poor learning outcomes. They will end up also poor, and their own grandchildren will end up poor. And so poverty has become like a dynasty. Now, we must, as a people, deliberately invest to break that chain. To break that chain. And I am hopeful that in the next few years, when the reforms going on in the oil sector begin to inch up the kind of returns expected, that as a nation again, we can sit to deliberately and intentionally prioritize this nationwide. Because now in Anambra, yes, we're saying doing infrastructural transformation, doing this and blah, blah, health, education, blah. But for me, the more fundamental thing is when we now declared completely, we've employed 8,115 teachers, which we employed from all over the country. We didn't ask you which is your state of origin, because the interest of the Anambra child is not to be taught by the incompetent teacher from his village, but to be taught by the best teacher in the world. After recruiting those and posting to the places, we have deliberately we're now implementing free qualitative education from primary through secondary in the entire public school in Anambra State. And I want to think that for the investors to walk the streets tomorrow, for the investors that we're asking to come to invest, to go tomorrow, these guys are those outskirts are waiting. If we don't unleash their potentials and opportunities to be useful to themselves, they will ultimately come down to Asokoro and Maitama and see what we are doing there. They will come, because there will be, how many, you need, atomic bomb to stop them. They will be coming. And again, why we must invest in that? Because for me, that is the sustainable investment that we must prioritize as a people, to give them the tools that they can participate in tomorrow. Otherwise, as the saying goes, sooner or later, the rich will not be able to sleep, because the poor are hungry and angry, and they will be moving about. So for sustainability of our investment, it's in our enlightened self-interest to make sure that we empower everybody and lift the boat for everybody. That way we can secure investment of the future. And in conclusion, dear friends, I want to say, once again, congratulate you on this historic summit. Anambra will hold its own, I think we're doing 14th, 15th of next month. And we'll be having this guy, but we're trying to structure it. Maybe big bagging on yours, and MD, we're inviting you. Big bagging on this. We'll try to collaborate on this. We'll see what you've done there. Last year, we tried to close some deals, and this year, we're trying to see how far those deals went and what are we getting from them. So I want once more to congratulate you. It's our collective destiny to make Nigeria great by investing in and patronizing made in Nigeria. If we all wear made in Nigeria clothes, no less than 5 to 10 million jobs will be created from textiles. Investment will come. If we all drive made in Nigerian cars, all these Toyota and all of them will relocate to Nigeria and start off manufacturing plants in Nigeria. In my state now, there are 2 more that are setting up manufacturing, cars as well. Because we say, produce it, we'll patronize it. If you come to Anambra Government House, we're not offering you anything that is imported. You will either eat our food that is made in Anambra or made in Nigeria, the drink you drink will be made in Anambra or made in Nigeria or whatever. When you leave the government house, you can go and drink your chemical. But while you are there, I'm not going to use government taxpayers' money to attend to your appetite for foreign goods and so on and so forth. So we must intentionally add to the strategy to nurture and promote our national champions. Let's sit down with them. What do you need? But we negotiate it in a way that is also beneficial for the common good. For the common good. Because the next generations also have a stake in what we are having today. So Abuja Investment Company Limited has begun a new thing in the FCT. Well, members here, I live here. Now that I see that the opportunity is there, first time they're talking about investment, so I now know that Abuja is not just to come and, as a political officer, to come and sleep and attend meetings at the villa and attend here and go to. Now that I know that it is also open for investment, now we'll begin. We'll be part of your ambassadors in spreading this and so on. I pray that deals closed at this summit and the future ones under the auspices of AICL will fundamentally change the landscape of Abuja from the home of politicians to an economic powerhouse. May Abuja and Nigeria continue to win. Thank you very much and God bless you.